I've been waiting all game to chit-chat about this particular man, number 21 for the Gators.
This is a guy who squats 720 and benches 520.
The biggest football player on planet Earth, Desmond Watson. We are about to witness history. Florida defensive lineman Desmond Watson could enter the NFL as the heaviest player ever. Desmond Watson was considered a player who could get a chance on an NFL roster as an undrafted rookie following the upcoming NFL draft. However, after an impressive pro day at Florida, when I reveal his size, you will find it harder to believe than what Deion Sanders said about pleasuring himself.
I don't pleasure myself. I've never in my life pleasured
in your life.
Never in my life.
Okay, Deion.
God is my witness.
Today you'll learn who Desmond Watson is, how big he is compared to the biggest NFL players ever, and what that might mean for him in the NFL as the heaviest player to ever do it. I'm Brandon Perna. This is That's Good Sports. We just crossed 718,000 subscribers here on That's Good Sports. We're trying to get to 725 by the NFL draft. So please subscribe. And a great way to support this channel is by purchasing my coffee over at benchwarmershop.com. We've got the F the Refs, the world's best-selling Fuck the Refs coffee. And our other dark roast, this is our year. And in case it's not, there's always next season. But if you like coffee and you got a lot of money, benchwarmershop.com. Only 2 NFL players have ever weighed in at over 400 pounds, officially at least, in NFL history. Nate Newton, who anchored the offensive line for the Dallas Cowboys in the 90s, barely broke 4 bills. Not to be confused with the 4 times the bills broke in the 90s, 2 because of Newton. Nate Newton seemed to carry the weight pretty well, though. He lasted 13 seasons in the league and made 6 Pro Bowls along the way. Probably worth noting, he underwent a vertical gastrectomy, which of course is where they snip your balls and makes it so you can't have kids, which in turn makes you a fitter, better person. Nothing will put on weight like having children. And until Desmond Watson shatters the record, the current heaviest player of all time in league history is Aaron Gibson. The 6'6", 410-pound wall of a man was a first-round draft pick by the Detroit Lions in 1999, and he stunned NFL draft scouts when he ran a 5'3" 40 at the combine that year. Here's a little unknown fact. Any 400-pound man who can reach a 40 speed of 5 flat can literally travel back in time. Now, he was the first player ever officially listed at 400 pounds. Nate Newton made it all the way up to 401 while playing in the NFL, but I'm not sure if he was ever actually listed at 400 pounds.
Every day is a holiday and every meal's a banquet, baby.
He has eaten himself out.
A lesser-known 400-pound player is Terrell Owens, who weighed 403 pounds while playing receiver for the Cowboys. Okay, I'm kidding. A 403-pound receiver would be the greatest thing we've ever seen in the NFL. And don't you dare say we've already witnessed that with Kelvin Benjamin, okay? That's mean. Terrell Brown is the 400-pound player who almost made it into the league. He was a towering 6'10" and 403 pounds. He ran a 5.77 40, was signed by the Rams in 2013 as an undrafted free agent, but never played due to an undisclosed injury. That should give you an idea about how rare it is to weigh 400 pounds and play in the NFL. There is such a thing as too big, but I am praying hard that Desmond Watson bucks the trend and makes a name for himself in the NFL as the biggest player on earth. How hard am I praying for that? Harder than I prayed when I was at my second cousin's wedding and found out that it was going to be a dry reception and there would be no booze. Oh, dear Lord, please let me find a full flask in the bathroom. I will literally give you my sight just so I don't have to sit through this through this fucking reception sober. Needless to say, the Lord did not answer my prayer that day. And to make matters worse, my cousin was divorced in less than 2 years. What a waste of my time. Maybe the funniest part of Desmond Watson being the size he is that he wore number 21 at the University of Florida. So when you see pictures of him, it looks like he might be a running back. And by the way, yes, he did get to carry the ball in an actual game against Tulane. If Jerome Bettis was the bus, then Desmond Watson is the mega bus, which currently has about the same chances at succeeding as the monorail. At his Florida Pro Day, Watson weighed in at 464 pounds. 464! 464. That's a thick-ass boy! Damn! But at 464, he's a beefy 54 pounds heavier than the NFL's heaviest player ever, Aaron Gibson. Another NFL player, another D. Watson, Deshaun Watson, weighs 220 pounds. Desmond Watson is literally 2 Deshaun Watsons. And the last thing this world needs is 2 D. Watsons. But the Browns have told Desmond if he can eat Deshaun, they will give him the rest of Watson's guaranteed money, which of course would no longer count against the salary cap. Them's the rules. Desmond Watson is from Plant City, Florida, which is obviously hilarious because I'm gonna take a wild guess and say he is not a vegetarian. He was also one of 6 children, and when he was born, he was the lightest of the Watson kids. Watson was 375 pounds by his junior year of high school, already bigger than any defensive lineman in the NFL at the time. After he committed to Florida, he was in the 400-pound range. And the Gators wanted to get him back down to 375, but of course he eventually weighed in at a very spry 464 pounds heading into spring camp his final year on campus. Watson once recovered a fumble and looked like he was headed for the end zone. Oh God, a 464-pound touchdown. But he actually got pushed to the ground by Spencer Rattler, who weighed 220 pounds, a full 215 pounds lighter than Watson at the time. That might have been the greatest highlight of Rattler's collegiate career. Watson's most famous clip, though, might be when he flung running back Kenny Walker, who is a normal-sized human, to the ground like he was a small child. But the best, and I mean absolute best moment came when A&M running back E.J. Smith saw Watson in his running lane and simply bailed. In football, there's a thing called gap assignments where defensive players are responsible for filling gaps to stop runs, but I have never seen a man simply close a perfectly blocked gap just by standing there like Watson did. I think the most impressive part about Watson is his 25-inch vertical jump. That's truly insane. It might actually defy the laws of gravity as we know it. More proof that gravity, after all, is still just a theory. It's subtle, but when a man his size does jump 25 inches into the air, it can also be measured on the Richter scale. To be clear, 25 inches would still put him at the very lower end of the combine in terms of measurements, but still not the lowest. His fellow Florida defensive tackle Cam Jackson had the shortest vertical jump this year at 24.5 inches, so he's got to be feeling pretty bad considering he weighs a full 125 pounds less than Desmond Watson. His 40-yard dash was 5.86 seconds, which is only a second slower than what Xavier Restrepo did at Miami's Pro Day. I'm kidding. I mean, not really, but apparently Restrepo was dealing with a hamstring injury, so we won't knock him for that. Watson's 5.86 run would have been the slowest at the 2025 Combine by 0.4 of a second. The slowest 40 belonged to South Carolina center Torricelli Simpkins III, who is probably lined up in front of Desmond Watson more often than he would have liked to have been. Watson did shine on the bench press at his pro day, putting up 36 reps at 225, which would have been the most at this year's NFL Combine. Knowing that his strength matches his size makes him intriguing for an NFL team to take a flyer on in, say, the 7th round. He squats 720 and benches over 500 pounds. He's captivating as a prospect and space eater if he can prove to stay in NFL shape. He's so big, I'm not even sure what NFL shape is for him. He's currently probably too heavy to play in the NFL at 464 pounds, and what's interesting is that he's put on a lot of weight every single year since entering college, going from 400 pounds as a freshman, adding on your standard freshman 15 when you learn to, binge drink like a proper adult, and then to 435, 449, and 464. The good news, if he can get into NFL shape, drop say 30 to 40 pounds, he'd still be playing at 425, ensuring he'd be the heaviest player ever by a large margin, which is saying something when we're talking about guys this freaking large. Also, playing defensive line makes playing in the NFL much more feasible than if you were, say, an offensive lineman. The issue, in terms of evaluation, is he didn't play a lot at Florida. He played in every game last season, but only recorded about 283 snaps. He did record 20 combined tackles last year and somehow defended one pass, but 283 snaps is about half of what your starting defensive lineman is putting up in a college season. 20 tackles isn't a lot either, but if you look back to that play where he just stood in the hole and the running back ran away from him, I would chalk that up as a stop. A defensive stop. Now, is he only playing half the time because he needs more rest due to his size, or because he's not as good as some of the other players at that position? I'm not really sure, but an NFL defensive coordinator who specializes in rotating his defensive linemen quite a bit is probably very curious to see how he could utilize the biggest player on planet Earth. And I hope someone like the Eagles takes a chance on him. Because if they do, we will all be better people. If Watson is in the NFL clogging running lanes and taking on double teams by simply just standing there and being present. Thanks for watching That's Good Sports. Please, again, subscribe to this YouTube channel. Let's put a collective prayer out there that Desmond Watson makes it to the NFL and becomes all of our favorite player.